The Harry Potter universe is one of the most notable realms in modern literature. The phenomenon began on June 26, 1997, with the release of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in the UK. Between that time and 2011, the world was treated to 7 novels and 8 films that recounted the story of the boy who lived and his trials and tribulations in the wizarding world. The primary setting for most of the stories is Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, a 1,000-year-old castle hidden in the Scottish Highlands, where young wizards and witches learn about magic. Hogwarts has 4 houses in which the students are divided: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Before the new students learn even a single spell, they take part in a sorting ceremony, where the enchanted sorting hat determines in which house each student belongs. That students will remain a part of that house for the entirety of their 7-year-long academic training. Considering that the sorting hat can see what's inside a person's head to determine their appropriate house, it seems like the results are foolproof. However, when you take a step back and evaluate the hat's choices, the flaws become glaringly obvious, and you have to question the accuracy of the sorting ceremony. Firstly, let's establish the attributes of each house. Gryffindors are described as brave, chivalrous, confident, and having nerve. Hufflepuffs work hard, are loyal, patient, tolerant, and just. Ravenclaws show intelligence, wit, creativity, cleverness, and enjoy learning. Slytherins are resourceful, ambitious, determined, shrewd, and accomplished. Unfortunately, Slytherin seems to be the default villain house in the books and films. No matter the person's individual qualities, if they're against the protagonist, they end up in Slytherin, which I will address in another video. Following the movie and film tradition, I'll list being evil as a Slytherin subcategory. With the attributes established, let's now examine some notable wizards and witches. Representing Gryffindor are James, Peter, Sirius, Lupin, Lily, Neville, Percy, Fred and George, Arthur Weasley, Harry, Ron, Hermione, Oliver, and Dumbledore. In Hufflepuff, we have Cedric, Ernie, and Justin. Ravenclaws are Quirrell and Lockhart, and Slytherin has Snape, Crabbe, and Goyle. I'll also include 3 characters from The Cursed Child: Albus and Scorpius from Slytherin, and Gryffindor's Polly Chapman. Ostensibly, the only out-of-place person on the aforementioned list seems to be Peter Pettigrew, who sold out Lily and James Potter to Voldemort, despite being in Valiant's Gryffindor. But on another look, most of the mentioned Gryffindors have strong attributes found in other houses. James and Sirius were arrogant bullies. Peter betrayed Lily, James, and Sirius, killed Cedric, and resurrected Voldemort. Polly Chapman is inordinately rude to her classmate Albus. Keeping in line with the novels and film stereotyping of big bad Slytherin, those 4 should technically be in that house. Lily befriended the ostracized Snape and tolerated his occasional outburst. She's kind, accepting, and just, and seems more Hufflepuff than Gryffindor. Despite being in Gryffindor, Neville was a timid student with a nervous disposition for most of his time at Hogwarts, but was also caring, dependable, and a hard worker, just like a Hufflepuff. Even though Lupin was a marauder, he was seen reading while the others bullied Snape, and his love of study continued into adulthood. Fred and George are witty inventors, and Arthur Weasley is inquisitive about the Muggle world, even going so far as to enchant a car. These 4 sound like Ravenclaws. Hermione exhibits more Ravenclaw tendencies, with her thirst for learning and cleverness, far more than Gryffindor attributes. But her obsession to master every subject, such as using a time turner to participate in all classes, and even breaking rules to achieve her goals, is reminiscent of determined Slytherin. Same thing with Oliver's fanatical Quidditch training. We see Percy as a prefect, and later a head boy. After joining the Ministry of Magic, he disowns his family, believing the association is holding him back. Dumbledore wanted to overthrow Muggles with the Dark Wizard Grindelwald when he was younger. Percy and Dumbledore fits not only the evil Slytherin stereotype, but the determined, ambitious traits as well. Ron is jealous of living in his older brother's shadows, and he desires greatness. In the Mirror of Erised, he sees himself as head boy and Quidditch captain. Slytherin. And then we have Harry. While he's fought Voldemort and other dangers, he's been forced into these positions, so his courage is reactive. With his amiable nature and allegiance, Harry is most like Hufflepuff. Some people may disagree with these opinions, as all of these Gryffindors displayed bravery at least once. Notwithstanding, most every character, regardless of their house, had to be brave at one point or another, due to the increasingly dangerous route the story took. Neville eventually became an able fighter, but that was simply a character arc, so his Gryffindor qualities ultimately showed. Snape and Narcissa both stood up to Voldemort, and they're not Gryffindors. Cedric Diggory of Hufflepuff is nice, but he valiantly participates in the Triwizard Tournament with the vehemence of a Gryffindor. Ernie Macmillan and Justin Finch-Fletchley are supposed to be fair and just Hufflepuffs, but they distrust Harry in the second book, and spread rumors about him without basis, like a stereotypical bad Slytherin. Both Quirrell and Lockhart are from Ravenclaw, but they act like Slytherins. And no, not because they're corrupt. Lockhart craves fame and glory, while Quirrell is willing to act as a host body for Voldemort. And finally, we come to Slytherin's Snape, Crabbe, Goyle, Albus, and Scorpius. Snape was a loner and a prodigy of potions, who sought neither fame nor power. Ravenclaw seems more his house. It's been established that Crabbe and Goyle are all muscle and brawn. They're not ambitious, crafty, or astute. However, they are Draco's loyal sidekicks, and loyalty equals Hufflepuff. Albus Potter doesn't possess Slytherin qualities, and is only there as a plot device. The same goes for Scorpius. While lacking cunning, he's a quirky, intelligent individual. Ravenclaw's more befitting for him, and Hufflepuff for Albus. Of course, Scorpius's presence in Slytherin is because his family was in that house. And here is another reason to question the hat's validity. When sorting is determined by a person's lineage, their own traits, most of the time, aren't taken into consideration. The Weasleys' attributes I mentioned would suggest the family should be in 2 Hogwarts houses, but for some reason, Gryffindor is their exclusive house. Why? They each have different characteristics. The Hat had sorted Sirius into Gryffindor, even though the rest of his relatives had been in Slytherin, so it is possible for the Hat to disregard tradition. And again, why is Scorpius in Slytherin? He's nothing like his father or grandfather. We've covered the Hat deciding people's houses based on their traits and lineage, but now I must address the single action that proves its input is unnecessary: allowing students to pick their house. This happens to Harry when the Hat wants to sort him into Slytherin, and Harry tells his son Albus he, too, can request a house of his own choice. The Hat was created to look into a person and unbiasedly pick the most appropriate place for him or her. When the first years arrive at Hogwarts, everything is overwhelming to them. 11-year-olds wants to fit in, and many times cave to peer pressure. What if the child wants to be with his or her friends, and asks to be placed in that house, despite not having the proper characteristics? What if a Slytherin at heart child is worried about Slytherin stigma, and begs to be put in another house? Harry had an aversion against Slytherin when he arrived at Hogwarts, due to Ron in the movie and Hagrid in the novel's prejudice, so he requested to be in any other. The Hat obliged, and put him in Gryffindor. Is it wise to give an impressionable 11-year-old the authority to ignore the 1,000-year process and make a decision that will affect the remainder of their academic and professional lives? Will an 11-year-old really make choices their teenage and adult selves won't regret? I'm embarrassed about things I did as an 11-year-old, and I'm glad I wasn't given responsibility of making decisions that would impact the rest of my life. The Hat's choices are determined by either the student's traits, family, or request. The traits judgment is fallible, the family judgment ludicrous, and the request judgment irresponsible. The reason motivating the Sorting Hat's results is solely for plot convenience. If Harry was in Hufflepuff, Hermione was in Ravenclaw, and Ron was in Slytherin, it'd be a lot harder for them to go on their adventures. There wouldn't be late-night common room discussions between the three, and Slytherin couldn't be generalized as the evil house, because Ron would be a part of it. It would have shown how people can overcome differences and work together, or supporting a friend whose house lost the competition. To quote Dumbledore, quote, "It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities." Unquote. But why include such a parable when they could all be on the same winning team, a stone's throw from each other? Neville is skeptical about being a Gryffindor and asks to be in Hufflepuff, but the Hat disregards his request. Why is Neville's choice ignored, yet Harry's is accepted? How suspiciously convenient. I guess Neville is only worth something as a Gryffindor, even though there are brave Hufflepuffs in Dumbledore's army and the Battle of Hogwarts. Some people may argue that these are kids' books and need to remain simplified for the young audiences. I would agree, except that the novels became increasingly convoluted and mature as the story progressed, essentially growing with the readers. The sorting ceremony is a magical moment in the Harry Potter series, there's no denying that. But maybe Hogwarts should retire the Hat and use the Pottermore sorting questionnaire instead.